In the mountains of southwestern British Columbia, under a thinning cap of glacial ice, there is a volcano that has been quietly tearing itself apart for years. It does not have the fame of the giants across the border. Most Canadians have never heard its name, but it is one of the two most dangerous volcanoes in the entire country. It produced the single largest landslide in recorded Canadian history, and the last time it truly erupted, it did so with a violence on the scale of Mount St. Helens. Its name is Mount Meager, and for the first time ever, Canada is about to start watching it in real time. The obvious question is why a country would wait until 2026 to put eyes on a mountain this dangerous. The harder question is what they are afraid those eyes are going to see. Let us be clear about what this story is and is not. This is not a warning that Mount Meager is about to erupt tomorrow. There is no countdown clock. What this is something stranger and in some ways more unsettling. It is the story of a mountain that has been moving, shifting, and slowly coming apart for over a decade, while the nation sitting beneath it had almost no way of knowing what it was doing. Until now, not a single volcano in Canada has had continuous, real-time monitoring. Not one. A country with active, very high-threat volcanoes has been, in effect, watching them through a keyhole with the lights off. To understand why that matters, you have to understand what kind of volcano Mount Meager actually is. It last erupted roughly 2,400 years ago, around 400 BCE, in the most significant volcanic eruption anywhere in Canada. That eruption sent ash drifting hundreds of kilometers to the east and choked the surrounding valleys with debris. But the thing that makes Meager so dangerous is not just its potential to blow, it is its tendency to fall. The mountain is built from weak, hydrothermally rotted rock, cooked and chemically eaten from the inside by the heat still trapped beneath it. Layer it with steep slopes, soak it with rain and meltwater, and cap it with glaciers that are now retreating and exposing the unstable rock beneath, and you get one of the most structurally fragile large mountains on the continent. To understand why, you have to understand what is happening inside it. Beneath Mount Meager, the heat that drives a volcano is still very much alive, and it pushes hot, acidic fluids up through the body of the mountain. Those fluids slowly cook solid rock into soft, crumbling clay. So the mountain you see, snow-capped and apparently solid, is in many places a shell wrapped around something with the structural integrity of wet plaster. Now add the weight of glaciers on top of it. Then take those glaciers away as the climate warms and they retreat, and you remove the very buttress that was helping pin the weak slopes in place. The mountain is being hollowed out from the inside and unburdened from the outside at the same time. Mount Meager does not need to erupt to become a catastrophe. It only needs to let go. And in 2010, it did exactly that. In the early hours of August 6th, at around 3:27 in the morning, the entire south flank of the mountain collapsed. Roughly 48.5 million cubic meters of rock and debris broke loose and roared down the valley. The largest landslide in recorded Canadian history. The slide moved so fast and carried so much material that it dammed the rivers below it, creating an unstable natural barrier of rubble holding back a growing lake. Authorities were forced to evacuate around 1,500 residents from the valley downstream, terrified that the debris dam would suddenly fail and send a wall of water and mud through their communities. It held, barely. But here's the part that should sit with you. That collapse, the biggest in the country's history, happened with essentially no warning, in the middle of the night, from a mountain almost nobody was watching. There were no real-time sensors on the summit to feel it coming. It simply happened, and the valley was lucky the timing was not worse. Downstream of the mountain sit real communities, farms, and the town of Pemberton, all of them in the potential path of whatever Meager sends down next, whether that turns out to be an eruption, a choking ash fall, or simply another piece of the mountain breaking loose in the dark. Now run that forward to today. Since 2010, satellite radar has shown that parts of Mount Meager's slopes are still creeping, still sliding, measured in centimeters every single month. The glaciers that once helped hold the edifice together are shrinking year by year, peeling back to reveal more of that rotten, over-steepened rock. The internal heat is still there, still working on the mountain from within. Every ingredient that produced the 2010 disaster is not only still present, it is in several ways getting worse. And until this year, the entire monitoring setup on this very high-threat volcano amounted to 2 cameras and a single citizen science seismometer that does not even stream its data in real time. Across the border, the United States blankets a mountain like Mount St. Helens with dense networks of instruments. Canada, on its own most recently active volcano, has been working nearly blind. Consider the contrast. South of the border, the United States learned the hard way at Mount St. Helens in 1980. And now wraps its dangerous volcanoes in dense webs of instruments that can sense magma on the move days or even weeks in advance. A swarm of tiny earthquakes deep below the surface, a few millimeters of swelling in the ground, a faint whiff of volcanic gas. Those are the whispers a volcano gives off before it ever shouts, and you can only hear them if you are listening with the right ears. For decades, on Mount Meager, Canada simply was not. That is what is finally changing in 2026. This spring, crews are set to install Canada's first ever continuous, real-time volcano monitoring station on Mount Meager. We are talking about a proper scientific nervous system bolted onto the mountain, seismometers, to feel the tiny earthquakes that swarm beneath a volcano as magma or fluids move. GPS stations precise enough to detect the ground swelling or sliding by millimeters. Cameras and infrasound sensors to catch ash, gas, and the low rumble of rockfall. For the first time, when Mount Meager twitches, someone will know within seconds instead of finding out from the wreckage. Scientists who study the mountain have said plainly that to properly watch a volcano like this, you need at least 6 seismometers on and around the summit. For years, it has had effectively 0 that mattered. The new station is the beginning of fixing a blind spot that has existed for as long as the country has been a country. And the reason they are rushing to do it now is the uncomfortable part. It is not because Meager has suddenly gone quiet and safe. It is because the signals that worry scientists, the creeping slopes, the retreating ice, the weak and shifting rock, have been getting harder to ignore, and because they have seen what this mountain can do with no warning at all. The monitoring is not going up because the danger has passed. It is going up because the danger has been there the whole time, and the country finally decided it could no longer afford to look away. Step back, and Mount Meager is really one piece of a much larger truth about Western Canada. This is the most geologically dangerous corner of the country by a wide margin. Just offshore of Vancouver Island lies the Cascadia subduction zone, the same fault system capable of producing a magnitude 9 megathrust earthquake and a tsunami that would strike the coast in minutes. Inland sits a whole belt of volcanoes, of which Meager and Mount Garibaldi are rated the most threatening. Millions of people live, work, and raise families in the shadow of all of it, in one of the most beautiful regions on Earth that also happens to be one of the most quietly hazardous. For decades, the watching of these threats has lagged far behind the threats themselves. So here is where it stands. The instruments are finally going up the mountain. The data is finally about to start flowing. But none of that changes what Mount Meager already is. Its slopes are still creeping, centimeters a month, in the dark. Its glaciers are still shrinking off the rotten rock. The same valley that was evacuated in 2010 still sits downstream in the path of whatever the mountain decides to do next. And the heat beneath it is still patiently working, the way it has for thousands of years, indifferent to whether anyone is finally paying attention. For 2,400 years, this mountain has been one of the most dangerous things in Canada, and almost no one was watching. Starting this spring, that finally changes. The only question that matters now is whether the watching has begun in time, or whether all those new sensors will end up doing nothing more than recording, in perfect detail, something the country could no longer stop.